This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network, and we are a proud media sponsor for the upcoming Precious Metals Summit Beaver Creek that is now happening virtually this year. Joining me right now is Marz Kord. He is the president and CEO of Wallbridge Mining. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is WM on the TSX. Marz, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
Hey, Robert. Not too bad. How are you?
Oh, it's just another beautiful day in Beaver Creek, as you can tell.
I see that.
My arm just, but
you promised you're going to take me there, right? So.
Oh, of course. We're doing a bro trip soon. I'm sure it'll be great.
That's good.
All right, Marz. Well, let's start off with a very quick overview and history of the company, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So Wallbridge has always been known for its copper nickel PGM exploration in Sudbury, Ontario of Canada. About late 2015, early 2016, the company realized that we needed to create more value for our shareholders, where the opportunities lie. And so we assembled an M&A team and looked for gold projects in Canada outside of the territories and British Columbia. The criteria we had was pretty far-fetched at the time. We were looking for high margin projects, scalable in Canada, perhaps in Quebec or Ontario, and gold assets. As a $5 million market cap, we knew that we weren't going to be able to get readily available million-ounce plus deposits, but we were looking at scalability and high-margin projects. We came across this property called Fenelon, which was owned by Balmoral Resources. In about mid-2016, we sort of did the due diligence on it, but we realized that at the top 100 meters, everybody had Swiss cheesed this deposit, and they had come up with about 40,000 ounces of, I believe, double-digit grades at the time. But wherever they drilled over this 4-kilometer strike length of these structures, they had good mineralization that never was followed up because everybody was looking for these double-digit grade meters. So we realized that it's best for us to really pay for what was there. So we paid $3.5 million Canadian for getting 100% of the property, basically based on the 40,000 ounces and the infrastructure that was there. We continued to expand on that mineralization. In fact, to the end of 2018, we increased the metal endowment from about 300 ounces vertical meter to over 1,000 ounces a vertical meter. But it wasn't really till the late 2018, early 2019, we knew some of these structures that had shown up in the geophysics. We decided to follow up on one of those targets, and we came up with this discovery of Area 51 and the Tabasco, Lower Tabasco, and Cayenne zones. And the reason, for the naming of Area 51, it was hole number 51, and it happened to be just before Christmas that we drilled into this, certainly a bit different than what we were used to in the main Gabbro. It still had the high-grade mineralization within the veins, but there was, it was surrounded by disseminated gold. So we called that hole 51 as Area 51 discovery. And following up on that, we realized that this Area 51 is a large mineralized system that has, these east-west veins that are very parallel to the Sunday Lake Deformation Zone, and happen to follow that up. And obviously from there on, the successful exploration program has now shown that it's got a multi-million ounce potential, which we are hoping that we'll be coming up with a mineral resource estimate perhaps by mid next year. Along the way, we continue to have this successful exploration program. In 2019, we approached Balmoral Resources to basically buy the entire company because we realized that not only the Fenelon mineralization was really going outside of where we already owned. This was only a 10.5 square kilometer property that we had purchased. But more importantly, Balmoral owned pretty well the entire land package along the Sunday Lake Deformation Zone. And our market cap had become more than what Balmoral was at the time we purchased the property. Unfortunately, we weren't successful in mid-2019, but early 2020, we approached again, and this time we were successful. We actually completed the transaction with Balmoral for the acquisition of all the outstanding shares of Balmoral, which happened to close this past May. We now own essentially about 90 to 100 kilometers strike length from the Ontario border, where the Detour, Kirkland Lake owns the Detour Gold, all the way to on the Quebec side, about 90 kilometers where we own the Fenelon property. And along this entire package of land, there are large gold systems that have been identified by Balmoral before, which we now have as our secondary focus outside of our Fenelon property.
Got it. All right. So I have a ton of Area 51 jokes, but I'm going to leave that for our Wallbridge Mining After Dark interview.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Over a beer.
Yeah. So, you know, my next question then is, what would you say makes the company and this project really unique and different compared to your peers?
So we're in an underexplored belt, but we own essentially a district scale type properties in this area. This is like owning the Abitibi 100 years ago, because there's been very little exploration on this whole belt. It's covered by about 20 to 30 meters of overburden. So really it hadn't been till the late 90s with the geophysics that really people were looking, you know, we're finding gold in these areas. So that's the number one. Secondly is that we have a fully funded program this year. We have an aggressive 100,000 meter plus program in 2020. Fully funded, we currently sit with a little over $40 million in cash. We also have the support of two strategic shareholders in Eric Sprott and Kirkland Lake Gold. Eric Sprott owns about 21% of the company. Kirkland Lake Gold owns about 8% of the company. We have another supportive shareholder of William Day Construction, who also owns about 8% of the company. So we have supportive shareholders, large land package, district scale potential, multi-million ounce potential at the Fenelon itself, plus other properties along this belt that could potentially add a lot of value.
And what's your background prior to joining Wallbridge? I think you said you joined back in 2016, right?
No, I actually joined Wallbridge in 2011. I'm a mining engineer by trade. I worked for Falconbridge at the day, which is now Glencore, all the way to the underground mine superintendent, owned a consulting company, built that company and sold it to a major, became their EVP for global mining, built their mining business to about 600 people worldwide before Wallbridge was looking for somebody to be able to help them transition from being just a pure exploration company to a cash flow generator with value accretive assets. It's not me, it's the team that's been built around me and the directors of the company that's got us to where we are today. And we continue to build on that strength, not only on the director side, but more importantly on the management side, because we always believe that these companies, exploration and development companies, have to have the focus that they're the ones who are going to bring this all the way to its ultimate production stage. So you got to build that team. If along the way someone else taps our shoulder and say, I got a better plan for your shareholders, we'll certainly be all ears. But in the meantime, you've got to build that team, and that's what we've been continuing to do so.
Very good. And from what you can tell us, what would you say are some of the company's value catalysts now for the rest of this year going into 2021?
So the 100,000 meter plus program this year obviously is a value catalyst. We continue to drill with 6 drills, about 10 to 12,000 meters a month. We're going to have continuous news flow. Now, continuous news flow in a lot of terms, some people may be asking that I got to print, do a press release every week or every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. We generally do not hold assays. Whenever the meaningful assays are received, we typically announce those. So whether it could be 4 weeks or whether it could be 8 weeks, depending on the results of the holes. Most of the drilling that we're doing within the property, it's actually these are typically 800 to 1,000 meter holes, because we're testing down to about 800 to 1,000 meters. And typically it's more than 50% of all the mineralization. So a lot of the assay results will continue to come throughout this year and rest of next year. More importantly, I mentioned that we have copper nickel PGM assets. Once that sort of copper nickel PGM assets come up with their resource on one of the projects, we intend to look at the spin out of our copper nickel PGM assets to allow our shareholders to actually hold both assets of gold as well as the copper nickel PGM. So those are some of the catalysts. And more importantly, we see that by about mid next year, we're gonna have our maiden resource on the property. So certainly there's a lot of work that's being done towards that. And also with respect to an approach to a sort of available financing, we also have this production scenario out of our main Gabbro zone. This is that 40,000 ounce that we continue to develop and make it bigger, that we'd be able to look at a high grade production out of that when the permits come. So we've actually applied for those permits, and whenever those arrive, we'll assess the possibility of perhaps using that production, if you may, as a support towards the development of the larger project.
And with that, where can my audience go and find everything they need to know about Wallbridge Mining?
Well, Wallbridge Mining's website is www.wallbridgemining.com. Most of our disclosures are in there. We do have a couple of analysts, I think 8 Capital and Paradigm, as well as Red Cloud, who have coverage on Wallbridge, that they can certainly approach those people in order to get their reports.
Very good. Well, Marz, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe. Good luck. And I look forward to our next update.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Again, my name is Robert Kraft. I'm your host on SNN.Network. We're a proud media sponsor for the upcoming Precious Metals Summit Beaver Creek, being held virtually this year. Marz will be there. And thank you all for watching today.
Thanks.